الثانية غفر الله لكم. لتعجيل في ظهور من صاحب العصر والزمان. الثالثة بيعلى. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة، ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب مظلوم كربلاء، ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم سادتي. يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Why do we cry for this tale year after year? Why do we cry for this tale year after year? Why does grief for Hussein refuse to leave ever? Why do the hearts ache when his name is mentioned? Why do the hearts ache when his name is mentioned? That we wake on our sorrow and sleep on our tears. I spent my whole life, I spent my whole life searching for an answer, till I knew this love is a gift from Allah. The poet writes with sorrow as his pen. The poet writes with sorrow as his pen, writing what happened on that day of the 10th. His ink is his tears, which to Hussein he has lent, painting a picture of Hussein and his women. This picture shows Hussein. This picture shows Hussein on the dust has fallen. Beside him his women in chains dragged from the tents. مدارس آيات خلت من تلاوة ومنزل وحي مقفر عرصات لآل رسول الله بالخيفة منها، أي منها والبيت والتعريف والجمرات ديار علي والحسين وجعفر وحمزة والسجاد ذيل ثفناتي منازل كانت للرشاد وللتقى منازل كانت للرشاد وللتقى وللصوم والتطهير والصلوات ديار عفاها جور كل منابذ ولم تعفن الأيام والسنوات أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فراتي إذا للطمت الخد فاطم عنده وأجريت دمع العين في الوجنات إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. قال الله الكريم في كتابه الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. صل على محمد وآل محمد. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam says to Salman, O Salman, Allah created me from His light. Allah created me from His light. He invited me and I obeyed. Allah then created from my light Ali. He invited Ali to obedience and Ali obeyed. He then created from my light and Ali's light Fatima. He invited Fatima and she obeyed. He created from my light and Ali's light and Fatima's light Hassan and Hussein. He invited them both to obedience and they obeyed. He gave us 5 names from His blessed names. He gave us 5 names because Allah is Mahmud and I am Muhammad. وَاللَّهُ الْأَعْلَى فَهَذَا عَلِي وَاللَّهُ فَاطِرٌ وَهَذِهِ فاطمة وَلِلَّهِ الْإِحْسَانُ وَهَذَا الْحَسَنُ وَاللَّهُ الْمُحْسِنُ وَهَذَا الْحُسَيْنُ. Allah is the most praiseworthy and I am Muhammad. Allah is the most supreme and here is Ali. Allah is the creator and here is Fatima. Allah is the most kind and here is Hassan. And for Allah is the most giving and here I give to you Imam al-Hussein. He then said that Allah created from the light of Hussein 9 Imams. He then said he created from the light of Hussein 9 Imams. But Allah created Hassan and Hussein from the light of Muhammad. But He created the 9 Imams from the light of Hussein. Furthermore, Imam al-Sadiq says, read the chapter of Fajr. In the Quran, read the chapter of Fajr. Surah Al-Fajr, read it in your salahs, read it in your worship, because it is a chapter which is affiliated and attributed to my grandfather Imam al-Hussein. Learn from it, he says. Learn from it, may Allah bless you. A man who was sitting in the gathering asked the Imam al-Sadiq, he says to him, if the chapter of Fajr was about Imam al-Hussein, then how comes the whole chapter does not mention martyrdom? It does not mention injustice, and it does not mention sacrificing in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here the reply is, so what is the link between that chapter, the chapter of Fajr, and Imam al-Hussein? There Imam al-Sadiq says something very beautiful. He says, the Imam said, do you not know the words of Allah when He says towards the end of that chapter, Ya ayyatuha al-nafsul mutma'innah? For surely Imam al-Hussein is that nafs al-mutma'innah. Imam al-Hussein is that reassured soul. He is that satisfied soul. He goes on further to say that Imam al-Hussein is al-radhiyatul mardiyya. He is the well-pleased and the pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam al-Hussein's life is not just sacrifice. It's not just martyrdom. It's not just lamenting. It's not just crying. It's not just majalis. It's not just programs. It's not just those 10 days. Imam al-Hussein's life is more than that. It's not just the spears and the blood and the glory of the day of Ashura that everyone has to mention in their lectures. Imam al-Hussein is much more than that. Imam al-Hussein is devotion and total submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Total submission. One of Imam al-Hussein's main attributes is his total devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But here we are, in the 21st century, attributing so much to Imam al-Hussein. Culture is good. Culture, when mourning Imam al-Hussein, is good. It creates inspiration and motivation within society, within your own communities. But we've lost the essence of Imam al-Hussein. We've lost the essence of what he stood up for. Imam al-Hussein in the land of Karbala on the day of Ashura would stand for prayer, worshipping his Lord, even though the swords were against him. Even though the arrows were thrown against him, he would stand and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the essence of Imam al-Hussein. Tawheed is the essence of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Let's not lose the essence by these distractions that we get from everywhere, left, right and center. Let's look briefly at the life of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein, as a young child, was looked after and protected by his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, and his mother, Fatima al-Zahra, but more especially by his grandfather, Rasulullah. For his grandfather would say, Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein. This is the first environment that he grew up in. The first environment of Imam al-Hussein was that of worship and devotion and Islam. He grew up in the lap of his grandfather, Rasulullah. So Imam al-Hussein grew up in the lap of the man who brought the message of Islam. The laps of the man who brought the message of Islam. Not only that, he learned everything that he has to know about Tawheed from his grandfather, from his mother, and from his father. At a young age, verses of the Quran were revealed or attributed or affiliated to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. As we all know, the event of Mubahila was in honor of the Prophet, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fatima al-Zahra, Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein. At a young age, he was affiliated with Quranic verses. Not only that, he was purified, a thorough purification. In chapter 33, verse 33, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرَّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. صلى الله عليه محمد وآله. In terms of his life as he was growing up, he was a staunch supporter of his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. He learned the arts of combat, for Imam Hussein did enter into combat in Karbala. He did fight people. He had to learn these skills. These skills aren't just given to him through Allah's manifestation. No, he had to learn these skills through his father Amir al-Mu'mineen, who was the Lion of God. So he learned the arts of combat through his father Amir al-Mu'mineen. He attended 3 wars with his father. In the Battle of Jamal, he would be the commander of the left side of the army of Amir al-Mu'mineen. A staunch supporter of his father. Supported his father in all of his endeavors. Upon the passing away of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Hussein then had to support his brother, Imam al-Hassan. And he had immense respect for Imam al-Hassan. Even though his brother of a couple of years difference. He had immense respect for Imam al-Hassan, so much so that when Imam al-Hassan would walk, Imam Hussein wouldn't walk in front of him. When Imam al-Hassan would talk, Imam Hussein wouldn't talk in front of him, or he wouldn't talk before him. This was the support and the respect that he showed to Imam al-Hassan. Not only that, but Imam Hussein, with his father, he was a witness to the Hakimiyya or the Hakamiyya arbitration between Muawiyah and his father Amir al-Mu'mineen. This was the relationship that he had with his father and his brother. But the most visible trait, the most visible attribute, or the most visible characteristic of Imam al-Hussein was his devout worship and undying love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unwavering love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing could get in the way of him and his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, in one of his sayings, Imam al-Hussein says, and he sums this up as a social conduct for us all, on how we should treat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says in one of his famous sayings, those who worship God, for hope of gaining, this is the worship of a merchant. And those who worship God out of fear, they are slaves. And those who worship God for being grateful towards their Creator, this is the worship of a free man. They are free people, he says. But what was the worship of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? What did he say exactly? What was his discussions or his dialogue with him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He says, oh he, listen to these words, very beautiful. Oh he, upon whom I called when I was sick, and he cured me. Oh he, when I was naked, he clothed me. Oh he, when hungry, you fed me. Oh Allah, oh he, when I was thirsty, you gave me nourishment. When I was alone, you provided company for me. You provided a companion. And when I was empty-handed, you enriched me. This is the kind of obedience that is the hallmark of Imam Hussein's teachings and devotions to Allah. He would always state, whenever he was asked, Imam Hussein, whenever he was asked, why are you heading towards Karbala? Why are you heading towards Karbala? All you're going to see is slaughter. All you're going to see is murder. Imam Hussein always would state that my destiny is in the hands of Allah. My destiny is in the hands of Allah. In one of his greatest works, or the legacy that he left behind, which only a month ago we would recite on the mountain of Arafah, those of you who have been blessed to go to Hajj. On the mountain of Arafah, there is a dua called Dua Imam al-Hussein on the day of Arafah. I urge you all to read these lines. I urge you all to read these lines because the dua and Bashir ibn Ghalib, a man by the name of Bashir ibn Ghalib, narrates, we were on the mountain of Arafah. We were on the mountain of Arafah and Imam al-Hussein was trembling. Imam al-Hussein was trembling. He stepped out of the camp. He walked just a couple of paces. He looks towards the sky in full khushu'. Mutadallil, khashi', they said. And he raises our hands towards the skies and he says, Alhamdulillah alladhi laysa liqada'ihi dafi'. He then goes on to say, فَإِن دَعَوْتُكَ أَجَبْتَنِي فَإِن دَعَوْتُكَ أَجَبْتَنِي. And if I pray for you, you will respond to me. وَإِن سَأَلْتُكَ أَعْطَيْتَنِي. And if I beg of you, you gave me. وَإِنْ أَطَعْتُكَ شَكَرْتَنِي. And if I obey you, you will thank me. وَإِنْ شَكَرْتُكَ زِدْتَنِي. And if I thank you, you will give me more. But this is probably the best lines of Dua Arafah is towards the middle when he testifies. He testifies that everything within him testifies to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, I bear witness, oh my God, with my true belief, the ties of the canals of the light of my sight, and the lines on my forehead, and the hollows of the courses of my breath, and the nasal cavity of my nose, and the courses and my courses of the meters of my hearing, and whatever my two lips hide and cover, and the motions of my tongue, the motions of my tongue, and more. He says, and what is included by the cloak of my chest, and the corners of the cord of my aorta, and my heart, and my liver, and my ribs, and my joints, and my blood, and my hair, and my skin, and my veins, all of my organs, what? By all that I bear witness, that if I try my best and strive throughout the ages to thank you properly for only one of your favors, I will not be able to do that. So everything, all of the attributes of his body, if he tries to bear witness that by everything that he swore upon to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just for one of his favors, he wouldn't be able to do that. Yes, Imam al-Hussein mentions his ribs and his chest and his liver and his heart and his blood. He mentions this just a month before Ashura, or a year, before Ashura. But little did he know, or did he actually know, to the extent of which the torture on Imam Hussein's body, everything that testified to the willingness of Allah, everything that testified to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would be under the ground and under the hooves of the horses. Imam Hussein's caravan, after leaving Medina, was heading towards Kufa but was redirected towards Karbala. All of a sudden, the horses stopped. All of a sudden the horses stopped. So Imam al-Hussein got down from the horse and changed his horse. That second horse, he tried to move it, it would stop. A third horse, a fourth. Narrations state that Imam al-Hussein tried 9 horses, but none of them would move an inch after they reached a barren land. Here Imam al-Hussein turns towards his companions and his families and his friends. He asks them, what is this land called? This land that we are standing upon, what is it called? فَأَجَابُوهُ بِأَنَّهَا الْغَاضِرِيَّاتِ فَأَجَابُوهُ بِأَنَّهَا الْغَاضِرِيَّاتِ. No, there is one more name I'm looking for. What other name is it called? قَالُوا تُسَمَّى نَيْنَوَى. No, there's another name to this land. Give me one more name. قَالُوا تُسَمَّى Karbala. This is the land. This is the land that Imam realized. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-karbi wal-bala. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-karbi wal-bala. Here he says to his companions and his friends and his family, put down your horses. This is the tents where we have to erect the tents. This is the place where we build our camp and we settle. محط رحالنا هنا تسفك دماءنا هنا ترمل نساؤنا هنا تحرق خيامنا هنا تسبي هنا تسبع نساؤنا هنا تسبع نساؤنا. Sayyida Zainab on the 11th of Muharram finds a woman walking towards her. It was darkness. It was darkness in the lands of Karbala. He sees a woman, she sees a woman coming towards her. There she says, oh my mother Zahra. Yes, when Fatima returned to Karbala, Zainab cries a scream of death by God, a scream. She cries, oh mother, come and see your son Hussein. Mother, I wish that to my side you'd return. Then Fatima from the heaven appears. Opposite her, Hussein's severed body lies. She wails when this picture meets her two eyes. With her the moon, the stars, and everything cries. She cries, rise up and avenge him, Haydar. And she finds the body of the newlywed. To the hunger of the swords, Jasim was fed, and upon him tears of blood our mothers shed. Which heart can bear the weight of this picture? Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bi khila'ik. Alaykum minni jami'an salamullah abadan ma baqit. وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبي الفضل العباس وأخته زينب جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات brothers and sisters, similar to yesterday, we'd like to create some sort of environment of sorrow and of mourning. But we'll just recap on what we discussed today, and that's the position of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The position of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, we said that from a narration from the Prophet that Allah gave 5 names. Allah invited the Prophet to obey, and he obeyed. He invited Fatima Zahra to obey, and she obeyed. Allah invited Hassan and Hussein, Imam Ali, to obey, and they obeyed. And therefore he gave them 5 names: Al-Fatir, Al-Muhsin, Al-Ihsan, and so on and so forth, Al-A'la. But lastly, the most significant part is that Imam al-Hussein, from his light, the remaining 9 Imams were created. And furthermore, Imam al-Sadiq says, he says that we should read the chapter of Fajr, Surah Al-Fajr. Why? Because towards the end of it, it says, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsu al-mutma'innatu rji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya. Surely Imam al-Hussein was that Radi and the Mardiya. Surely Imam al-Hussein was that nafs al-mutma'inna. He was that reassured soul. Why? Because when he returned to his Lord, his soul was reassured and his soul was satisfied. In any case, we then went on to discuss the life of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, where he grew up. His first environment was that he grew up with his parents, Fatima Zahra and Imam Ali alayhi salam, but specifically he grew up in the lap of his grandfather Rasulullah. And the Prophet Rasulullah would constantly say, Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein. So this was the position of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We went on to say that Imam Hussein learns the art of combat through his father Amir al-Mu'mineen. He was involved in certain political situations with his father, and he was very respectful towards his brother Imam al-Hassan. And then the most visible trait and the most unique trait about Imam al-Hussein was his total submissiveness and his total submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not from greed and not from fear, but as a free man, he loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be grateful for the blessings that He has bestowed upon him, and for the blessings that Allah has bestowed upon us. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, please, I'd like you all to stand for the recitation of Al-Atmiyya. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Amongst all of creation, you've captured our gaze. Even the souls thirsty for your blood sing your praise. The Spirit cries out when your severed head it would raise. Bathed in your blood, it knows your name, none could erase. They see that you last forever, Ya Hussein. You've left a wound in each lover, oh Hussein. They see that you last forever, Ya Hussein. You've left a wound in each lover, Ya Hussein. On the plains of heavenly dust, your shed. It complains of the burden that's on you. It's bled instead of rain, divine blood, its soil was fed, and it makes me, and it makes weep, whichever man upon it tread. Your blood scarred it like a river, Ya Hussein. You've left a wound in each lover, Ya Hussein. We grew up in the shadow of your brilliance. We only know tales of your existence. Was it not enough that destroyed us, your absence? Was it not enough that destroyed us, your absence? The story of your killing destroyed our patience. On your torture we would ponder, Ya Hussein. On your torture we would ponder, Ya Hussein. You've left a wound in each lover, Ya Hussein. In every age the sheer weight of your life is young, and only in the face of hardship is it turned. Every heart that felt orphaned towards you was turned, and in the flame of your love all our trials burned. To your comfort we would wander, Ya Hussein. You've left a wound in each lover, Hussein. Would it be that in grief you wandered to the sword? Oh, that with death you felt comforted by your Lord. Death called you, but from the cradle your name we've called. Death called you, but from the cradle your name we've called. Only a soulless and headless body answered. You've left our eyes with this picture, Ya Hussein. You've left a wound in each lover, Ya Hussein. Yet you taught us to oppression. You never bowed, yes, never bowed. And with your head raised on a spear, it rises proud in awe of your greatness. Watches an entranced crowd, an entranced crowd. Your uncovered body, billions of Israel. This would last till the hereafter, Ya Hussein. يفلفت عيون إليك نافه يا حسين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا أجعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبا الفضل العباس واخته زينب جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. إلهي بمريض كربلاء زين العابدين يا رب عافي وشافي جميع المرضى على خصم أوصانا بالدعاء يا الله. اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك، جنبنا معاصيك، اجعل عواقب أمورنا خيرا يا الله. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة الحسين وفي الآخرة شفاعة الحسين يا الله. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره ومن أعوانه ومن الذابين عنه ومن المستشهدين بين يديه يا الله. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح خدمة الحسين نهدي لهم ثواب سورة المباركة الفاتحة قبلها صلوات.